everyone, my name is Nazbele Kangana Mayaba and welcome to my YouTube channel. Firstly, before I go into today's topic, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the love and the support that you have shown since we uploaded the first video. All the calls, all the text messages, all the inboxes, your words have truly meant so much to me and to the rest of my family as well. You have once again really gave me the reassurance that this was not all in vain. A number of people have truly been touched by the message of the video. So today, after we uploaded the video, I had a number of people coming forward and really wanting to share their own stories of being infected with HIV, but also their own stories of pain. And one of the things that has been common in all of this is people asking me, how did you get to a point where you were okay? You were okay to talk about your story. You were comfortable with what had happened. How do I get to a point where, I move forward and also be okay? So that's what I thought would be a nice transition from the first video to where we are now, to kind of give you some of the things I used or what I had to go through to get to my healing, and with the hope that they will help you in your own journeys as well. So as I shared from the last video, I was diagnosed HIV positive August of 2013. Although it was shock, I shared in the video that I did find some kind of comfort that my then partner was with me. So I was under the illusion that, whatever happens, he will be next to me. He will understand some of the things that I'm going through, some of the emotions that I was going through. It was only, I'll say, end of 2014, when we had broken up, that all the emotions that I had tried to suppress all that time, because back then, for a whole year, I was under the pretense that everything was fine. And to some extent, there were even days where I even forgot that I was HIV positive. So when we had broken up, all the emotions that I had carried or tried to suppress all came back to me, and I just couldn't handle it. That's when I actually realized a year later that I was HIV positive. I was going to be alone for the rest of my life. I was not going to be able to, start a family. When will I start showing? When will I start losing weight? Will I ever get the courage to, tell my family? All those things that were going through my mind. And obviously also going through a really, really bad breakup from my point of view. I remember when I eventually told my brother, that was the first person I told in my family, that, I had been infected with HIV and I felt alone in this whole process. And I remember calling him and saying to him, Buddy, I think I'm losing my mind. I remember it was December of 2014. And I called him, we were on holiday with Ma. We had gone back to where she was born to see some of her family. And he was back in Port Elizabeth. And I called him, I said, I don't think I'll ever be okay. One of the first things that I wanted to share with you that has truly helped me in my journey is some of the words that he said to me. Although they didn't make sense at that point in time, but when I started my process or my journey of healing, I started appreciating them more. And that's why I thought it would be relevant for me to share that with you. He said to me, Nozi, you're not going crazy. You are in a process. You are in a journey. You are in pain. And knowing you, because no one knows me better than my brother, knowing you, I know you want to wake up the following day and you become this jolly person, this bubbly person. And that's not going to happen. And that's what's going to frustrate you even more. The minute you start to understand that it's going to take time for you to heal, the minute you'll become more acceptant, or you start accepting the journey that you're in. However, accepting the journey that you're in doesn't mean you're accepting your pain. It doesn't mean that you are now going to cocoon, or you're going to, act as if now this pain is your baby. It's not your baby. Umdana, you're always carrying it, or you carry the baby around, making sure, it doesn't cry and all of those things. That pain is not your baby. Because if you start cocooning it or cushioning it, that's when you are going to miss your turning point. So that's one of the first things that I wanted to share with you. If you're feeling some kind of pain, or you're in the journey that I was in a number of years ago, start to appreciate the fact that yes, you are in a journey and it's going to take some time. You're in a journey of healing. It may not, you may not wake up tomorrow and feel okay, but it is fine. And then you will eventually get to a place where you start appreciating where you've been. And that's the first thing that I wanted to share with you. Basically just appreciating or accepting the process of your healing. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is how I needed to forgive someone that was never sorry. I delayed most of my healing because I was, playing the blame game. I didn't take responsibility for anything. It was all on him. And I was waiting for him to come back to me and apologize. So I thought, he needed a couple of weeks. He's going to come back. Couple of weeks turned into months. Couple of months turned into years. And people were moving on with their lives. But I was stuck back in August of 2013. I didn't want to move because I was waiting for some kind of acknowledgement that I thought I was entitled to. And when it didn't happen, that's when I started being frustrated that, how dare this apology doesn't... Guys, I even had a whole script. My friends will testify to this. I even had a whole script where if he had to say this, I'll say this back. It became so poisonous to me that I started being fed up. I started being fed up about talking about it. I started being fed up about how I felt so bitter and so angry. And I couldn't accept it anymore. Similar to how, when a person is in a toxic relationship, and sometimes it is said that a person needs to be fed up until they take a decision that they cannot accept anything less than what they deserve. And for me, that was it. I could not wait. I refused to wait for something that was not going to happen. In actual fact, the more I thought about it, I came to realize I actually didn't need even an apology. So I remember this one night I was praying in my room, reading my devotional book, and God revealed to me and said, you know what, if you feel strongly about this, then write a letter. Not per se, write a letter to him, but write a letter about everything that you're feeling, the hurt, the disappointment, how you're feeling inside. And as soon as I wrote that letter, all the baggage that I had, carried this whole time literally fell away from me. And that was it. The second part of the forgiveness that I needed to do came in the form where after I'd been diagnosed HIV positive, I had followed a number of HIV social media pages, a number of support groups, and I came this one called Good Stories. And I remember particularly a post that they had shared, and I wanted to read this post to you. He said, and this was one of the things that encouraged me to start forgiving myself as well. The post said, but then there's another story to the coin, where you have to take responsibility of your actions, where you need to evaluate your decision process and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself because you never did enough to protect yourself, where you were irresponsible and made the wrong decision. The moment you accept that you played a role in the situation that you find yourself in, it is easier to get out of it. It's easier to take that step forward and continue with your life. I took responsibility. I took responsibility that I had placed my life in someone else's hands. I took responsibility that I didn't protect myself enough. And the minute I acknowledged that, the minute I started my journey of forgiving myself. The last thing I wanted to share that really helped me is I'm a strong believer that there is a lesson in every story, or there's a purpose with every story. There's nothing that happens under God's watch is in vain. I don't believe that for a second. When I was growing up, I always prayed to myself, you know what, God, I don't believe that I was brought into this earth to just be. There's no such thing. I know you have a greater purpose for my life. However, when the incident happened, I did have a conversation with God. I was like, well, I think you did kind of take it to an extreme, you know. I feel like you should have stopped when I was a first graduate in my family. I think that would have been enough. Now you were taking it a little bit extreme, you know. But when I realized what God intended with the story, the moment I appreciated it. It took me years. It took me a lot of saying to God, I don't think I'll ever be ready, because there was so much. I felt like there was so much at stake. I will need to tell my mom, my parents. I will need to tell my family. What will they think of me? I'll kill my mom, you know. So I delayed all of it until God said, no more delay. This has to happen. You have to tell your story so that there are people that need it, there are people that need to heal from it. And one of the scriptures that helped me a lot with finding a purpose in my story is the story of Joseph in the Bible. How Joseph was sold by his brothers and he became a slave. Years later, Joseph actually now became the second most important person in Egypt. And it all started after he was able to interpret the king's dreams. And the king trusted him enough to be in charge of food supply in Egypt. The moment that it really touches my heart with the whole Joseph story is the fact that after being sold by his brothers, years later, his brothers go to him. They don't even recognize him at first. He does. And after they realize who the person they were talking to was, asking for food, Joseph says to them, it is me. Don't you recognize me? And the brothers fall on their feet and they apologize, for having sold Joseph in Egypt. I love his reply. He says to them, don't be afraid. Don't you see I'm in the house of the Lord? Because you intended to harm me, but God used it for the good of what is now being done, and that is the saving of many lives. And that has been my scripture for years, because I knew God, the story that is within my heart, you're not only keeping it from me, you are keeping it, or you intended it to happen so that there may be many people that are saved by it, there may be many people that are healed by it. But of course there were moments, as I shared, where I refused to be the one that has to come up with the story. I felt, it was too much for me. But once again, I was reminded of Moses and how Moses was called by God. And, it's a scripture that I love. To Moses, when God has called him, Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight and makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. So even when Moses insisted that God should send someone else, God didn't move. God was very sure of who it was that he wanted to send. So with all of this, I really pray that you get an understanding that, again, nothing happens in God's watch that is an accident. He's very intentional with everything. And as my brother said, please trust the process and you will be okay. So until next time, thank you so much for listening, and yeah, I'll see you next time.